We're back once again this week with Stephanie Dobson. Stephanie is a local lawyer and mediator with Henka Divorce Law and Mediation. And Stephanie, today we've kind of changed things a little bit. We're not getting into more of the technical side of things with divorce and separation. Well, I guess technical kind of in technology is what we're referring to today. And making a plan for two-parent homes, especially when kids are going back and forth. And it's obviously important that there be some sort of a unity and a unified decision as to how this is going to be handled in both places. So let's start talking about what some of the things are that parents should consider when it comes to use of technology within two separate homes.
Sure. Thanks, Stacey. Yeah, we've been looking at some pretty heavy stuff the last few weeks, so I thought I'd lighten it up by talking about a bit more of a fun topic of technology, and one of my favorites. So first, I recommend that parents look at the basic concept of the actual acquisition or the use of a device. So when is the appropriate age that a child will have a device? So we've got cell phones, gaming consoles, laptops, tablets, other kind of electronics. So there are parents where they have completely differing views on what that's going to look like and what age is appropriate. So the best practice, if possible, would be to discuss that between parents before the actual purchase of a device. Otherwise, it can really put kids in between parental conflict pretty darn quickly. So the second piece is the actual use of the device. So now the device has been purchased, and how is that going to actually be used? So as you described a moment ago, having consistent rules between two homes can be really helpful as far as things like even screen time limits, device-free times of the day, or even activities where devices are appropriate or inappropriate. Like, for example, homework. How do we limit the devices during homework time? And even when you've got devices, some are more portable than others, what devices are going to go between homes and what's going to stay at one home or the other?
Now, if there are going to have to be technology limits placed in each home, what are some of the things that parents should be considering when getting that set up?
Lots of devices, of course, have parental controls where you can parents can monitor the device usage. It's important, though, if possible, for both parents to at least have that override passcode so that if they want to approve or deny app purchases or extra screen time, that sort of thing, that's possible within that parent's home. And ideally, parents can agree on things like content rating. So what 14A, 12, over age 12, whatever that may be on the device, and be on the same page about consequences. If you're over your screen time limit, what happens? And if that consequence has to go into the other parent's home, you may have to have a conversation with your co-parent to say, look, I've grounded them from their iPads for 5 days. I know you're going to have the kids in 2 days, but ultimately that should be a discussion because you can't really impose rules in another parent's home. But the piece by contrast is don't forget to also reward your kids. So if kids are good with their screen time limits and without complaints, we can also reward them for staying within the rules.
Now, there is a cost with technology. It's not cheap, obviously, when you look at plans and Wi-Fi and things like that. So what are some of the things that should be discussed around the issue of cost of technology?
Well, of course, there's the first thing, which is the cost of the device itself. So how will that cost be allocated between the parents? It may not technically be within the child support purview. So how is that going to be shared? And are there financing options, or even to use options to spread out the cost of that phone or that device over the contract? Then, speaking of contracts, is the issue of if a contract is required for data or the cell phone use, then whose name is that contract going to be in, and how is the cost going to be allocated? Are the kids going to be required to contribute to some of that with allowance money? When you're purchasing your device, there are options for different brands. And if you can imagine, this is a big source of conflict between parents. Sometimes people get pretty stuck on their brands. Some people are Apple users or Android users or Microsoft users. And even to try to come up with ideas of what brand will be used if the cost is in fact going to be shared. And last is that question of data or Wi-Fi only. There are some devices that you don't need a data plan, and the question of if there is data, what's the cost around the data, or is it going to be a Wi-Fi only device?
Now, Stephanie, what would the next steps be if parents want to come up with a specific plan when they are co-parenting kids who are going back and forth between different households and they want this technology plan in place?
Well, the first thing would be certainly to go onto YouTube and rewatch this video because, of course, we went through a lot of things very quickly, and it would be really helpful if you could start and stop it and watch it with your co-parent and actually come up with proposals or agreements with respect to all of these kind of issues that we talked about. When I meet with parents to develop their parenting plan, I always talk about technology and I always address these kinds of questions. So it's important to talk to your lawyer or your mediator about these kind of issues to make sure that that kind of a plan, if possible, can be in place between two homes. And one resource that I always recommend to my clients is a website called healthychildren.org. And if you search if you type into the search bar family media plan, this is a website from the American Academy of Pediatrics where you can insert, it's a wizard, where you can insert your kids' ages and then kind of go through some of the agreements that you and your co-parent might want to reach with respect to technology in two homes.
All right, Stephanie, well, once again, lots of information in this. Yeah. And again, we encourage people to either check out your website or the Up a Notch Learning site for information related to this and all other things with divorce and separation. And Stephanie, once again, can you just give us the information as to how people can find you and find that information?
Sure. So anyone can, of course, always call our office, 780-875-2234 for more information on any of these topics. Our website is Henka Divorce, Henka, divorce.ca, with lots of information about our legal and mediation services. And the one that, Stacey, you were referring to, upanotchlearning.com, that's our e-learning community with tons of free resources and some course content as well.
All right, Stephanie, well, thank you so much once again for joining us today, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you.